Well, today we're going to start a project that I've been putting off for the last 10 years. Need to make a coin door for my Star Trek cockpit. I was lucky enough about 10 years ago, Hanzo had a used door that had some damage to it, and he was nice enough to send it to me so I could use it to copy and make a new one. So here's the door. You can see it. Somebody obviously had broke into the coin box because it didn't have a key, obviously. And but other than that, it's complete, and we'll make a good template. So let's see if it fits. And it's a real tight fit, probably a little swelling because it is made out of particle board, but the overall dimensions seem correct. So all we have to do is make sure we just trim a little bit of extra off of this top edge so it'll fit in a little better. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is line the original coin door up on top of my new piece of wood. I got a piece of shelf material which is made out of the same type of wood, only it's already covered in the white covering, but it is still particle board. And I'm going to line it up on these two sides here, get it nice and flush. Then I'm going to scribe a line on the other two sides so I can use it to cut by. Now this end is the rough edge where all the damage is. So what I did was I just scribed a line. It's a straight line on the flat surfaces, and I'll just come back with a straight edge and put the line across there, line it up. Now the way it's sitting on here, if you notice, it has a bevel on the top edge. So the down sign, or where I scribed the line here, is the longest edge, and it's a little shorter here. So I'll just cut it off flat onto the longest edge, and then I'll come back afterwards, set the saw on an angle, and we'll cut this angled bevel. The angled bevel is because it makes it easier for it to go back up into the cabinet, because it's not hinged. It's just got these blocks of wood here holding the bottom in, and when you tilt it up, it just makes it easier for it to line up into the cabinet. Now when you're using a table saw, and I'm no way an expert, and this is an old table saw that I've had for years and has been abused and sits outside most of the time, I just put a new saw blade on it because the old blade had rusted. So what you want to do is you want to raise the blade up, and when you're cutting with a table saw, you never want to have the blade too high above your work. That'll cause kickbacks. You just want it high enough over the work to cut through the work and leave a nice clean edge. Okay, let's make our first cut. I have the rip fence set up with the proper distance, so I should get a nice straight line on this edge here. We're going to give it a try anyway. So let's fire up the saw. Okay, well, that wasn't too bad. Got a little bit of chipping on the top side here of the lamey finish, but on the back side, which is the side I'm going to use, looks like it's a nice clean cut. So that'll work out fine. Now we have to set up to make the cut on this side. Alright, now we have our rip fence set up to cut this small side piece off here. And we made sure we got it down on the right side so our clean cut will be on the outer edge. So that's ready to cut. Now we have our corn door. Should be sized and cut. All we're going to have to do is cut this bevel on the top edge and then cut the 2 square blocks that'll staple on here to secure it to the bottom. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to have to cut the bevel on the top edge of the coin door. And the table saw allows us to do that because it has an adjustment here which allows you to set the angle of the blade so that you can cut any angle you want. Now the easiest way to set this is, because I have the original coin door with the bevel, all I did was just put it up against the blade and adjusted the angle of the blade until the blade is flat against the angle on the coin door cut. And once I got that, I locked it in place. And if you look down here, you can see that according to the gauge here, it's 9-degree angle. So anyway, as long as it's the same, it doesn't matter. So next we'll go ahead and we'll cut the bevel on the top edge of the door. Alright, we're all set up to cut the bevel on the top edge of the coin door. And as you can see, we now have the bevel. Okay, well, here we are. We're going to test fit the door now. Bottom fits good. And the top is a good tight fit, but maybe just a little too tight because it won't quite go all the way in. So we're just going to have to trim a little bit more off of this bevel, or take a little bit off the bottom. But not bad for a first try. Okay, here we go with the second test fit. Perfect. Perfect fit all the way around. Just what we want. Not tight at all, but no cracks anywhere. Okay, now all we have to do is put our blocks on to keep from, being able to pull the bottom out and cut our hole for the lock. Alright, now we have to cut out the two blocks that staples onto the bottom of the door. And it just so happens that this piece that we cut off the side where we made the door from is a perfect fit for the width. So all we have to do is mark it, cut it off the right length, and just cut two pieces off, and then we'll be ready to attach them. Okay, for this one we're going to use the miter guide to get us a nice 90-degree cut. Since it's a small piece, and I've put the lines on here where I got to make the cuts. So just got to make two cuts. Here's my saw blade drifted down on me. Okay, reset it. Okay. Now we have our two blocks that we can staple onto our board. Okay, well, I've marked where the wood blocks are going to go, and I've marked where the key is going to go, the cam lock to lock the door. But I think I'll show you how I did it. Just when you got the old part, you don't have to do a whole lot of measuring. What I need to do is find out the correct position that each one goes in. So set the old board down, set the new door on top of it, line up the bottom edge, and I just put a mark here. Then I moved it down to the other side, did the same thing. Lined up the bottom, put a mark, and took my straight edge and drew a line all the way across it. That gives me the back position to line the block up on both sides. Okay, then we have to get the correct spacing. So again, just put the new door on top of the old door, like this. Take my straight edge and just put it straight on the original block, and then I drew my lines. Each one of them, lined it up, drew a line for both sides of the blocks. So that gave me the position where my blocks are going to go. So now all I have to do is put a little bit of glue on there, lay them on there, and use my staple gun and staple them on. Basically done the same thing for where the keyhole goes for the cam lock. Now, just laid the door, the old door right on top of the new door, lined it up, take your pencil and just draw what's left of the circle for the cam lock, and there you have it marked so that you have something to go by, you know that's lined up. Very simple and it's easy to do, a whole lot better than taking a whole lot of measurements and transferring onto it. If you have, you know, the original piece to go by, it's a whole lot easier to recreate than recreating it just from measurements. Alright, now we're ready to staple these retaining blocks on here. And these are the staples I'm going to use. These are the identical staples that were used in the Star Trek game Construction, as well as many other games. The same staples that was used in the Dragon's Lair cabinet. Actually, I bought this staple gun years ago from Harbor Freight, and I bought the staples there too. So I actually bought it to build a Dragon's Lair cabinet and for the restoration of my Star Trek cabinet. So it has come in handy over the years, and I've used it a few times. So we're going to load the staples back in. I just wanted to show you the type of crown staples. I think they're 1/4 inch, or I'm not sure, I'd have to look at the box. But anyway, they're the correct size. So we're going to fire up the compressor and go ahead and staple these blocks on. Well, before I try to staple the wood pieces onto the new door, I done took an old scrap from the original material that I'm using here, put a little glue on it, and we're going to test fire a couple staples to make sure that the gun is working properly. And it is not going into the wood like it should. So that's why we test. Let me see if I can figure out why. Okay, we're going to switch gears here now. Since the crown stapler didn't seem like it wanted to work, traded guns for a nailer. So now we're just going to use brad nails, which ought to hold it just as good. So let's give it a try here. Shouldn't be no problem. All right, let's do the other one. And that ought to be it. Just nail down that, I'll pull out that one staple that didn't go all the way in, and that should be all we need to hold it. Well, here they are. Here's the new, that's the old. So Let's take the new one here and test fit it and see how it fits. Fits like a glove. So now all we got to do is put the cab lock in it and we'll be finished. Well, here it is, the finished coin door that I just made. And we've got the cam lock on it there. The only problem I may have now is these new cam locks come with a straight short cam, and I believe I'm going to need a bent cam that'll make it flush. Either that or I'm going to have to add a little piece of wood up to the top section or bend this in, but I'll figure that out in a minute. So that's ready. And thanks to Adam, who is redoing a cockpit of his own, and he got some spare parts in, he let me have his spare coin box, which I had been looking for the last 10 years. So now I have an original coin box. He had it nicely, I believe that's powder coated, some type of paint, resurfaced, sandblasted, and looks good. So now we're going to go install it for the first time and see how everything works. Alright, well here we are at the back of the Star Trek cockpit where the coin door goes on mine. Recently discovered that there are two types. The majority of them, I believe, have the coin box like this one is in the back door, but there are a few, and I don't know if they're prototypes or first production run or last production run. I'd have to say, since they're in the flyer, that they're either prototypes or first production runs. I don't know how many of them were made, but the coin door was actually in the cockpit section where you normally would put your feet, and it was a metal panel which had a lock on both sides, and the panel was hinged, and you picked it up and the coin box came out the front side. So anyway, mine is the rear entry. So now I'm going to put the coin box in that Adam sold me, and it looks like a perfect fit. Now I'm going to put my coin door that I just made, and that works perfect, except for, as you can see, I need that flush mount cam. But other than that, it looks like it's going to work perfectly. So I could probably even bend this. It already has a piece on here, but it's not thick enough. Actually, I believe that's a piece of metal to keep you from busting that out. That's what that is. Okay, so either I need to find a bent cam and put on here, which I may have one around here, or I could try bending this a little closer, which would also probably work. But other than that, I'm happy with it. I had to make one more modification. I don't know if you can see it here, but up here where the cam locks the coin door in, it's a metal plate on the back side here, and it hangs down below the top edge of the door so that the top of the coin door will rest flat against it. Well, because of that, the plate that I'd put on, the metal plate for the lock, and this is it, set up too high, so the piece of metal would sit on top of this and hold the door open just a little bit. So what I did was I took it back off and ground it down flat. That should give me enough clearance for that piece of metal to clear it so that the door will shut all the way. So we're going to give that a try and see what happens. Alright, so here we are. We done modified it, and we done bent the cam, so we just took a guess at it, and don't know if you can see it or not, but you can maybe see that metal plate I was talking about that it was hitting. So now we're gonna go ahead and put it in here. We're gonna put the coin door in. All right. Got a little bit of play. We can bend that cam a little bit more, but basically that's done. So the coin door is all finished. Now we can go on to our next project, which probably will be taking the button panel back out and have the brand new overlay that was just made not too long ago, and we'll be pulling that old homemade overlay off and sticking the silk screen one on. So getting a little bit closer to getting a few little odds and ends fixed that we've been sort of putting off for the last 10 years. So on to the next project.